Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 32a, top of the page, with the words Hai Chala de Shikra de Arama'a. First few words of the page. Hai Chala de Shikra de Arama'a, Sur de Maravi Bedur Daya de Ainesech. Amravashi Umeotzar Shari Kevan de Maravi Be Misra Sarib. This vinegar, made of Aramean beer, is prohibited, as they mix in it yeast of wine used for a libation. Ravashi said, but vinegar from a storeroom is permitted, since if another substance is mixed with it, it would spoil over time. V'cheres hadriani, my hadriani, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, חרס של הדריאנוס כזר כי אתה רב דימי אמר קרקע בתולה הייתה שלא עבדה אדם מעולם עבדה ונטעה ורמלה לחמרה בגילופי חיברים ומאצילו לחמראו ומתעברו לו וחספה ודרו בידיו וכל אחד ימתותרו לו ושתו. אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, ראשון שלנו כשלישי שלהם. The Mishnah teaches, and hadrianic earthenware is prohibited. The Gemara asks, what is hadrianic earthenware? Rabbi Yehuda says that Shmuel says it is earthenware of Emperor Hadrian. When Rav Dimi came, he said there was an expanse of virgin soil that no man had ever tilled before, and Hadrian tilled it and planted grapevines in it, which yielded wine of the highest quality. And they placed this wine in white jugs, and the jugs absorbed the wine. And they would break the jugs into shards and carry the shards with them. And anywhere that they stopped, they soaked these shards in water and drank the water. The Gemara notes that Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, and our first-rate wine is like the wine produced by the third usage of their hadrianic earthenware. That's some pretty strong earthenware. That our first-rate wine is like the wine produced by the third usage. Wow. Anyway, Ibaylehu, Mahu Lismoch, Bahen Karemita, Urotse Bekimo, Kiyuma Yide Devaracher, Sharu Asur. A dilemma was raised before the sages. What is the halacha if one wishes to use such shards to support the legs of a bed with them? Is one who desires a prohibited item's continued existence in order to use it for another matter, meaning not for the prohibited purpose, permitted to use it or prohibited from doing so? In this case, no benefit whatsoever is derived from the wine absorbed within the shards, but the shards themselves are being used to support the bed. Tashima de Rabbi Elazar to Rabbi Yochanan, Chad Asar, Chad Shavin, Yihilchata, Keman de Asal. The Gemara suggests coming here a resolution to the dilemma, as Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yochanan engaged in a dispute in this case. One prohibited using the shards in such a fashion, and one permitted this practice. The Gemara adds, and the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of the sage who prohibited it. The Gemara raises an objection from a braita to the sage who deems it permitted. Durim v'haru kabois shel goyim yain shel Yisrael kanus bahen asur b'shtia umutar b'ano Heid Shimon ben Guda לפני בנו של רבן גמליאל על רבן גמליאל ששתה ממנו בעכו ולא הודו לו. With regard to the jugs, dardurim, and flagons of Gentiles that have the Jews' wine contained in them, one is prohibited from drinking the wine, but one is permitted to derive benefit from it. The Gemara notes that Shimon ben Guda testified before the son of Rabban Gamliel with regard to Rabban Gamliel that he drank from it in Akko, but the sages did not concede to the ramifications of this testimony. Nodot shel goyim, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Yishum Rabbi Shua ben Kaposai, Asur lasos ben shtichin lachamol, Uhacha deot zebekiyum al yedei davar acher v'getani dasu. Concerning wineskins that belong to Gentiles, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says in the name of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Kapusai, it is prohibited to fashion from them such items as blankets to cover a donkey, as one derives benefit from them. The Gemara explains the objection, and here, in the case of wineskins used as donkey covers, he desires its continued existence for another matter, and yet the Braita teaches that it is prohibited to use it for this purpose. V'leta'amaich kankanim shel goyim litasku lemizban ma'ishna nodot u'ma'ishna kankanim amar Rava gezerah shema yibaka nodo yitlenu v'yitperenu al gabe nodo. The Gemara retorts that according to your reasoning it should be prohibited to sell jugs belonging to Gentiles, and yet Jews sell them frequently. What is different about wineskins from which one may not derive indirect benefit, and what is different about jugs which may be sold for indirect benefit? The Gemara answers that Rava says there is a rabbinic decree that one may not sell wineskins of Gentiles lest his own wineskin break open, and to repair it would take the Gentile's wineskin and sew it onto his wineskin. And this would cause the wine absorbed into the Gentile's wineskin to mix with the wine of the Jew and render it forbidden. Could you put new wine into old wineskins? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. ולמד אמר את זה בקיום על ידי דבר אחר עשו. מה ישנה כאן קנים נשאו אמר לך, אסם לעשה לסורנה, אך לעשה לסורבנה. The Gemara asks, and according to the one who says that someone who desires the continued existence of a prohibited item for another matter is prohibited from using the item in this way. What is different about jugs that purchasing them is permitted? The Gemara explains that this sage could have said to you, there, with regard to the jugs, there is no substantive prohibited entity, whereas here, in the case of Hadrianic earthenware, there is a substantive prohibited entity, as the wine is recognizable in the earthenware. V'lo hodulo uremini yain ababir beruk baot shel goyim asur b'shtiya umutar בהנאה. העיד שמעון בן גודה לפני בנו של רבן גמליאל על רבן גמליאל ששתה ממנו בעכו והודו לו. It was stated that Shimon ben Guda provided testimony, but the sages did not concede to its ramifications, and the Gemara raises a contradiction. With regard to wine that comes in the flagons of Gentiles, one is prohibited from drinking the wine, but one is permitted to derive benefit from it. Shimon ben Guda testified before the son of Rabban Gamliel with regard to Rabban Gamliel that he drank from it in Akko, and they conceded to him. This directly contradicts the episode cited above. Mai lo hodu lo diko amar hasam ki siato aval beno modele ibait ema guda lechod veguda lechod. The Gemara explains what is the meaning of the sentence, but they did not concede to the ramifications of his testimony, which was stated there in the first account. The meaning is that the rest of his entire company, meaning the sages, did not concede, but his son did concede to him. If you wish, say instead that Gouda with the letter Aleph, as stated in the first episode, is discrete, and Gouda with an Ayin in the second account is discrete. The two incidents are not referring to the same individual. Ve'aros levuvin tanarabanan ezu ar levuv kol shekarua keneged alev yagadu kamin aruba yesh alav koret dam asur. The Mishnah further teaches and hides with a tear opposite the heart are prohibited. The sages taught what is considered a hide with a tear opposite the heart. Any hide that is torn opposite the heart and incised in a shape similar to an aperture, which has a trace of coagulated blood on it, is prohibited. And now we turn to page 32b, top of the page, with the words Ein alav koret dam mutar. Ein alav koret dam mutar. If it does not have a trace of blood upon it, then it is permitted. Amar Rav Huna lo shanu ela shelo malachu avo malachu asu ema milcho he'virtanu. Rav Huna says they taught that a bloodless hide is permitted only in a case where the Gentile did not salt it. But if he salted it, it is prohibited. As I say, its salting removed the trace of blood. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer Bizman שהקרע שלו עגול אסור, משוך מותר. אמר רבי יוסף, אמר רבי יהודה בן שמואל, הלכה כרבן שמעון ben Gamliel. The Mishnah teaches that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says a hide is prohibited only when the tear around its heart is circular. But if it is elongated, it is permitted. The Gemara notes where Yosef says, or Yehuda says, and Shmuel says, the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Amar le Abaye halacha mikla de pligi. Amar le may nafkelach mina. Amar le gemara gemor zemor da tehe. Abaye said to Yosef, if one rules that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, does that mean by inference that the rabbis disagree? Or perhaps there is no dispute and everyone accepts the opinion of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Rav Yosef said to him, what difference is there to you whether or not the rabbis disagree? In either case, the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Abaye said to him, invoking a folk expression with regarding to one who learns without achieving understanding, is it simply learn a lesson, let it be like a song? Gemara gamor gemor tatehe. Abaye said to him, invoking a folk expression with regard to one who learns without achieving understanding. Is it simply learn a lesson, let it be like a song? In other words, is it sufficient to simply parrot the halachic ruling? No. It is necessary to examine the issue and understand it, even if it does not yield a practical halachic difference. I think many people would say, myself included, many notable people would say that it's learn the lesson and let it be like a song. And that has merit as well. But perhaps Abaye didn't think so. Next. Basar nichnas Avodah Zarah mutar man tanai Amar Kiya bar Abba Amar Yochanan delo Kirabi Elazar De'i Rabbi Zarah Amar Sitamach Shevet Goi Avodah Zarah. The Mishnah for the teacher's meat that enters the house of idol worship before the sacrifice is permitted. The Gemara asks, who is the Tana who taught this? Rabbi Chia bar Abba said that Rabbi Yochanan said, it is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, as if one were to posit that it is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, this would be difficult. Doesn't he say, when slaughtering an animal, a Gentile's unspecified intention is to use it for idol worship? Accordingly, Rabbi Elazar would disagree with the ruling of the Mishnah that meat entering a house of idol worship is permitted. My time, Yehoshua like a Avodah Zarah mani. The Mishnah teaches, and meat that exits the house of idol worship is prohibited because it is considered as offerings to the dead, meaning idols. The Gemara asks, what is the reason that it is classified as such? It is because it is impossible that it is not an idolatrous offering. The Gemara asks, whose opinion does this reflect? It is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. Titania, we learn the Brayso of Yehuda ben Betera Omer, minayin latarovet avodah zarah shematea bohel, shenemar v'yitzamdu l'bal pa'or v'yuchlu zivchei meitim. He had that recently in the Parsha, 2 weeks ago. 2 Parsha, not yesterday, but Parsha Balak, I think. Ma'amet matam v'ohel af tikarovet avodah zarah matam v'ohel. As it is taught in Brayso, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera says, from where is it derived that an idolatrous offering imparts ritual impurity by means of a tent to an individual or item situated together with it under the same structure, even if they do not come into direct contact. As it is stated, they joined themselves also unto Baal of Peor and ate the offerings to the dead. Psalms 106:28. Just as a corpse imparts ritual impurity by means of a tent, so too idolatrous offerings impart ritual impurity by means of a tent. Similarly, Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera would hold that just as it is prohibited to derive benefit from a corpse, so too it is prohibited to derive benefit from idolatrous offerings. ההולכים לתרבות, אסורים לשאת ולתת עמהם. אמר שמואל גוי, ההולך לתרבות בהניחו. אסור, דהזיל מודה כמי עבודה זרה, וחזרה מותר, מאי דהווה. The Mishnah teaches with regard to those going to a festival of idolatry, it is prohibited to engage with them in business. The Gemara notes that Shmuel says, in the case of a Gentile who goes to a festival of idolatry, if he is on his way to the festival, it is prohibited to engage in business with him, as he subsequently goes and offers thanks before the object of idol worship. Upon his return, it is permitted. And what was, meaning he has already finished his worship, and refraining from engaging in business with the Gentile at this stage will accomplish nothing. Yisrael haolech letarbut ba'alicha mutar din mahadar be v'lo azir b'chazara asur kevan. Conversely, with a Jew, in regard to a Jew who goes to a festival of idolatry, if he is on his way to the festival, it is permitted to engage in business with him, as perhaps he will retract from his plan and will not go. Upon his return, it is prohibited, since, God willing, we'll continue this the next time.